My name is Arjan van Weele, and I am a purchasing professor, a professor of purchasing and supply management at Eindhoven University of Technology. I teach strategic sourcing there to my students to inspire them to go for a career in this important business domain. And secondly, I do a lot of research which takes me in my laboratory, which is business. I do not have a laboratory at my university. My laboratory is in the outside world. And that's why I work on a part-time basis, because I want to be in my laboratory the other half of my time. I work also as a consultant to companies to professionalize purchasing and supply management. And I like also to publish about it, to disseminate my research results to the business community and to get feedback on those results, because that's the way how I learn and how I get to a bigger understanding of the phenomena that I study. So over time, purchasing and supply management has been a very important driver of competitive advantage, due to the fact that companies have forced to focus on what they can do best and outsource everything else. And today, the resource profile of a company is that about 60 to 70% of their revenue is being bought by suppliers and contractors, which makes the relationship with these contractors and suppliers so very, very important. And that's what I do.
Yeah. And I mean, you have one of those brains that seem to never rest, really.
No, that's true.
And you talk about business trends impacting procurement. Could you elaborate on what it is you're seeing?
There are a lot of trends. I will limit myself to two important ones. And one is the trend that we can see all around us, which is the significant growth of the world population, which will grow from the 7 billion today to around 9 billion in just 20, 30 years. And the impact of that is profound. First of all, we have the challenge to see how we are going to feed this world population, and how we're going to spread the prosperity that we have in the Western world to the emerging countries. The result for my domain will be that there will be an increasing need for resources, and resource scarcity is something which is, well, we notice it already, but it will become more and more dramatic over the years to come, because as I say, it will be a challenge to feed this world population. And the second trend, which is very important, is that what we see in the Western world is that the role of business is changing. We thought business was there originally to create shareholder value and to satisfy the needs of the financial community. We have seen what happens when companies unilaterally focus on that interest. And today the challenge is, can't we change business from focusing on shareholder value to stakeholder value? And that means that a large corporation today not only has to serve the interest of the financial community, but also of the society in which it operates, and also the suppliers, and especially the customers that it works with and works for.
And one of the aspects that you've also been talking about is, as I choose to interpret it, sort of the information overload, the big data of procurement and supply chain, the never-ending access to information. Can you elaborate on what impact that might have on, the broader aspects?
Well, there is an internal aspect and an external aspect. First, what we see is that ICT, information communications technology, allows us to generate data about the purchasing spend of companies these days. We talk about thousands of products that we buy, from 10,000s of suppliers that we buy from, in different regions of Canada. So the ICT allows us to really get an idea of how we spend and where we spend. And therefore we can orchestrate this, the purchasing power of organizations. But there is also an external aspect. And the external aspect has to do with the social media that we see. Social media would expose how companies are buying today. And they are not buying always in the more ethical forms. So there is quite some resistance against companies buying in emerging countries from suppliers where labor laws are being violated, child labor is being used. And companies today are being exposed to this kind of risks. And I think rightfully so. Because the more we bring this kind of scandals to the surface, the more responsibility purchasing and supply professionals have to take. And this was something 10 years ago which wasn't that important. So with this orientation towards shifting from shareholder value to what I call stakeholder value creation, at the same time, the focus of supply chain professionals need to change from a cost orientation to responsible purchasing orientation, which is also all about mitigating the risks that we see happening in supply chains. And the big debate, of course, today is how far should you go? Is your responsibility residing only to the first tier suppliers, or also to the second and third tier suppliers? And this is a debate which is currently going on. Yeah. It's not finished yet.
No. And there is also a lot of talk about trust and finding different ways of not harvesting, because that would be the wrong word, but working with your suppliers and, like you say, different stakeholders in terms of innovation and transformation. And I think sometimes that the terminology innovation and transformation are used so often that they seem almost meaningless. Can you say something about how you perceive innovation and transformation within your area, and also the ideas you have into how companies could work in a more efficient way with innovation and transformation?
All right, I will first try to answer the issue on trust. What I see is that as we have outsourced our production over the world, over the globe, that the world is becoming more and more interconnected. We are absolutely interconnected. It means that if we have a disaster, a nuclear plant disaster in Fukushima, or we have a flood in Thailand, which put, say, semiconductor factories underwater, we in Western Europe immediately feel that, because we cannot produce the things that we need to produce, because the parts will not come in time. So we are absolutely interconnected. What we see is also a shift from what we call commodity buying standard goods, to buying very sophisticated services, or products with a very high knowledge content. If that happens, we need to transfer knowledge between the supply base and our own company, vice versa. And that is only possible when there is a good connection between the companies, between the people that have to do the job. And we have found out that trust, what I call relational quality, is much more important than having a good contract in place. And this is something that the buying and purchasing community needs to learn, which relentlessly have focused on cost reduction, and now have to learn to reach out to the supply base, capture their expertise to become more innovative. Because today, for any company, the knowledge that you need to improve your products, your processes, build new business models, the knowledge for that resides only for a small part in your own organization. The biggest part of the knowledge resides in the outside world. And this is the problem that purchasing and supply professionals have, in my view, and the big challenge is how to reach out to that world. A world that has a good memory, because they know how suppliers know how they were treated in the past. And they don't trust the companies. They say, yeah, we want to be part of your innovation processes, innovation programs, but you know what? In the end, you're going to put me down on price. And that makes them reluctant, and I call it the shadow of the past. So the companies that really want to reach out to the supply base and try to do that suffer this problem of the shadow of the past, which only can be solved by building better personal relationships and being knowledgeable about the things that they do, but also ethical in the way they do business. Yeah?
So also a big opportunity then for procurement to add to that business?
Well, there is, at one time, it is a very important opportunity, and for me it's very clear. Companies need to go that way, or they will fail. Because the alternative is that if they don't go that way and they won't succeed, they will absolutely will end up behind their competitors and lose territory. But the debate today is the purchasing and supply chain community able to follow this? Won't they go back to their traditional behavior, of cost cutting? Or are they going to follow this difficult route, this long-term route towards value creation?
Yeah. Well, only time will tell. So thank you so much, Arjan, for sharing your wisdom. And I look forward to following your work further.
Okay, it's my pleasure.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.